because we got to get on record that like all the four women are here.
Mhm.
So we got Janet, the artificial intelligence bot. We got Louise van Rhyn, who is I don't even know what to say except that. Here's the interesting thing, right? Janet, I've only known for about a year, but I've had fairly intensive interactions with. Louise, I've known for like 15 years, but I hardly have ever talked to.
So Michael, something
Yeah?
you don't know is that Louise and I were born on exactly the same day.
I didn't know that.
We were.
I don't think Louise also didn't know that.
Yep.
So maybe there is no Janet Dupree's. Maybe she's just Louise's alter ego.
Oh, show him, Louise.
I've always dreamt of this idea of cloning.
Me too.
So, you know, part of my dream is that you wake up in the morning and then you meet your clones and you send them out into the world.
Oh,
you get
yes.
a massage and a glass of wine, and they check back in late afternoon.
Dream.
So maybe, given that Janet is the artificial AI bot and the, you know, we on the same day, maybe this is time, Janet. Maybe COVID is going to give us that. Well, all we do is we say, sorry, can't, my phone, my computer, you know, my camera doesn't.
Yeah.
And then, you know.
We just alternate.
But this does give you some idea of the absolute genius of Louise van Rhyn, because look at what she's organized. I've been fooled for a year.
Louise is a very good delegator.
Can I just say, Michael, I have a horrible thing on my eye, and I've been feeling very, very self-conscious of it. And then I thought, Janet's taught me how to do this. You just say, sorry, my camera doesn't work. And then you get through the whole thing. And then I was on a session this morning with my mum, and I said, can you see this thing? She said, no, you can't see the thing. But
No.
she looked on gallery view. And then our marketing manager took a picture of me speaking on, you know, when you just speaker view. And I've decided I'm giving up. I'm going to show up with my camera and I'm just giving up. Just not going to try. And I'm going to do Alicia Keys' vulnerability, authenticity, no makeup. We're going that route now.
Fantastic. And here's the thing. I don't think any of us would have noticed anything wrong with your eye.
Definitely.
I don't think so. I've pinged you now. I'm looking at you on a full screen and I don't see it.
I was going to say, not even on speaker view.
Okay, good. Just let that go. Sorry, it was like I was going to follow Janet's lead and then I decided against it.
Okay, so people are stacking in slowly. People do love to be on time. So the third person, also a mystery, also someone that in my personal life has appeared, but kind of like in the same period of time as Janet, but with the same infrequency as Louise. And that's the invisible Zanele and Japa, who will be speaking next week. She is reputedly incredible. I just can't tell because she disappears all the time. So we're hoping for some brilliance. Oh, look, she's there. Fantastic. Nice background.
Wow. Thank you for those words. Now everyone is probably wondering what's up with me. Thanks, Michael.
There's no bad publicity.
Yeah, it's much more interesting when you're kind of wondering than when you know.
Yeah.
And then we have the supremely odd woman out, because she's the only not South African person, Salima Villani, who has changed her intercontinental schedule to come tonight. That's the vibe
nice to meet everyone. I've traveled in Southern Africa, so I love South Africa. I see a lot of you from there.
So tell us quickly about your book, really quickly.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I'm based in Washington, D.C. I'm Canadian, and my book, it's called Innovation Starts with I. And it's interesting because I met Michael Lee. I don't know how we got connected on LinkedIn. I don't know exactly who or what, but it's very interesting because my book is basically trying to redefine innovation and highlight the human element, and that, you know, self-aware innovation doesn't necessarily start with empathy. Like, empathy is the engine of innovation, but it really starts with self-awareness and self-reflection, and starts with I. It starts with I, and it happens with we and through teams and communities, but there's a really emotional human element of it that often gets forgotten in the innovation discussion. And it's not just about technology and ideas, it's about being human. So my book is really essentially teaching human skills a lot through my own personal story, and after interviewing over 100 entrepreneurs and leaders, including Alex Osterwalder, who created the business model canvas. And I also facilitated design thinking workshops around the world in Liberia and Africa, like Morocco, Middle East, Panama. I traveled quite a bit in Europe and just really got to, I didn't want my book to become too North American. So I wanted to, as someone that has also lived around the world and worked globally with my career in international development, I said, I really want this to have a global perspective. And so yeah, it'll be released in December, and we're currently, it's currently on for pre-sale, like a pre-order on Indiegogo, and we're crowdfunding to support the self-publishing journey, since the publishing world is not doing great right now. And so I figured my biggest impact would be through self-publishing the book and having the community invested and on the journey with me. Thank you so much for having me.
So she'll be speaking more than that in 2 weeks, and still crowdfunding at that time. So that's cool. So I guess, Louise, we've waited long enough. It's interesting group here. I'm scanning people's names. There's some really great people on this call right now. So I think without much ado, I just want to point out, and I don't like to bring politics into this conversation at all, but I have to, as an African-American, mention that very few people in the world have noticed that because it's South African Women's Month, not International Women's Month, that the first Black woman, presidential or candidate for the United States government has been named during South African Women's Month. And so I did, your politics aside, well, I hope, I hope that everybody here is as excited as I am, whether you're American, half American, or not at all American. And guys, I want to just, before we get into Louise's talk, I'll say this every time we have this event, but one of the things that's, the design of this event is that, Salima, I know, just posted something for you guys to be able to reach her, but that's kind of a extra unnecessary thing, because the point here is that all of you will be able to get into the group on LinkedIn and then communicate directly with each other. So you don't have to stress out about grabbing each other's email addresses or whatever, right? Because all of the people on here are on LinkedIn. And all of them are in the group that we've got, going, or if they're not, they will be. So the great thing here is that you can really focus on being here and not worry too much about having to try to get that person's contact or whatever, right? That's the purpose here, and the purpose of doing this event the way we're doing it. I guess curiosity was the best of people last week. We had about 40 people, about double what we have today. But the idea here is that each week, there's some really exciting person talking about really cool stuff that you can apply in your own life, and you can come in and out. So if you can't make 1 week, it's no big deal. It's not like a webinar where, the whole world falls apart if people don't show up. So the great thing, that we're trying to do here is just build up a community that comes as often as they can, and give an opportunity for us to hear from amazing people like the imaginary Janet, the very real Louise, and the others who are still to come, Zanella and Salima, and the surprise new people for September, and so on. So anyway, I've used up enough of your precious time. I think it's Louise's turn, I believe, to dazzle us, blow our minds with her genius, because
don't set us up for failure, Michael.
Well, okay. The one thing the one thing I did leak into the conversation, and you picked up on it, Louise, is that, I've always been fascinated and never took the moment to ever try to ask you this. And it's not what you're here to talk about, but I do hope that at some point tonight we can hear like 30 seconds of wisdom from the Zanders, because anybody here ever read The Art of Possibility, that book?
Yep.
Benjamin Zander and Rosalind Zander, and Ben Zander's theory of giving his students an A before they start their class is something that I've used a lot in coaching and training. It's a brilliant thing. For those that don't know, basically he had a policy, well, he probably still does have a policy of telling people they get an A for his class, but they have to write an essay explaining how they got it on the first week, so that they set themselves up with an attitude and a perspective of what they have to achieve in order to succeed in what they're doing. And it's a really brilliant way of generating possibility from, you know, the first moment. So I've always loved Benjamin Zander, you know, and admired him tremendously, like a lot of people. So here is the living embodiment of Ben on this call. So it's pretty cool.
Shall we spend 3 minutes talking about that piece?
Please go ahead. Perfect elation. Go ahead.
So here's the thing. I read the book without ever meeting Ben, and without even seeing him on screen. I read The Art of Possibility while I was living in the UK, and felt completely inspired by the story. And that evening wrote to my accountant and said, please can we change the name of my company to Symphonia, because that's in the book. They told the story about visiting South Africa, and they said everywhere where they went, people were talking about South Africa. It was like a living, breathing entity, a sounding of all together, Symphonia. So I decided I'm going to come back to South Africa, and we're going to convene conversations like this where people can talk about the future and their role and dream big dreams. That was in 2001. Then a few years later, we returned to South Africa, and I became clinically depressed about being back. I really struggled. I don't know whether anybody else had that experience of coming back, but I found being back very hard for me. So what did I do? I organized my life around not being in South Africa. So my family and my husband and my children were here, and I spent my time commuting to the UK. Lived in the UK for 4 years until my kids said, no more, you're going to have to make a decision. Are you coming back? Are you staying away, or what's the story? So I decided to come back, and I had no idea how to do that. So I didn't want to arrive back in the country with a whimper. I wanted to kind of have a bit of a big bang, and decided I was going to ask the Zanders whether they would come to South Africa and do a 3-week tour with us, which they did after a long story. And then I got to be immersed in being with them 24/7 for 3 weeks, 21 days. We did 97 events in the end. We engaged with 15,000 people. I do not advise that to anybody, but it did change my life. Hearing that story and giving the A story in 20 different settings, and then hearing all the other stories, have definitely been one of the forming experience of my life. And we've published a video. We've published 2 videos, actually. We've published the South Africa Live with Possibility video, which I've shared the link of on the, I misread the instructions. So there are now 2 messages on the group, which shouldn't be the case. But there are 2 messages. One of them has the South Africa Live with Possibility video, and the other message is just the South Africa, about Partners Possibility, what we've been up to. So is that enough, Michael? What else did you want to know? You are muted, my dear.
You see, I've fallen victim to my own meme.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's not enough. I could spend the next 4 days listening to you talk about your experiences with the Zanders, but probably enough for tonight. Yes. So without much further ado, I think you just carry on and you can give us your wisdom.
Thank you. I do want to say, I did before my evening became a bit discombobulated, I did put a light here because we're going to have load shedding at 8. So just before 8, I need to quickly go and find a light. But anyway, that's fine. I'm hopefully not going to lose the signal, and I'm going to be able to stay online, and I will go and get a light in about 5 minutes from now. But so Michael, it's about 20 minutes of me talking now, and then we're going to go into breakout groups. Is that what's going to happen?
That'd be great.
Okay. So I'll just keep an eye on the time.
No, don't worry. I mean, if it goes 25 or even 30, we'll survive.
Okay, that's fine. So what I've stopped, I want to kind of say what I normally do a talk that says most of what I know about leadership I've learned from leading the Partners for Possibility program. Tonight, I'm not going to talk about leadership as much, but I'm dying to know more. Well, I'm going to read the book because I want to find out whether my experience around innovation has any bearing on what on the book we've heard earlier. Was it Salima's book, that we heard about. So if that's the case, I can't wait to read the book. And Salima, I'd love to hear whether what I'm going to talk about resonates with you. There's a I have a hope for this session. So I want to put my hand up and say I'm a bad multitasker. So I join these calls and then I spend the whole of my time multitasking, which means that ultimately I end up not actually remembering anything. And I came across this quote, which we now use as part of our sessions. It says, Alan Alda, the author, the actor said, the difference between listening and pretending to listen is enormous. One is fluid, the other one is rigid. One is alive, the other is stuffed. Eventually, I found a radical way of thinking about listening. Real listening is a willingness to let the person change you. When I'm willing to let them change me, something happens between us that is more interesting than a pair of dueling monologues. So I have a kind of curiosity around what will it take for us to do something together tonight, not necessarily create a project together, but there's something around the space in between in our listening. So Michael, I've got you in front of my screen. I can see that you're listening with lots of curiosity and interest, and that's helpful for me. And then I see so I'll keep my eyes on the people who are listening rather than multitasking. That's just fabulous. Thanks. So quick question, people might sit here thinking, what is Partners for Possibility? It's many things. It's a nation building process. It's a leadership development process. It's a process to strengthen leadership capacity in under-resourced schools. We are pursuing improved academic outcomes and reduced inequality in education. And it is an opportunity for ordinary citizens to contribute to a more just and equitable society. So that feels like many different facets of a diamond, I'm hoping. I'm not going to talk about that tonight because we can spend the whole 20 minutes just talking about Partners for Possibility. I want to talk about being the leader of Partners for Possibility, the founder, the designer, as a leadership development experience for me personally. So it's that idea of innovation starts with me. And so for a decade of my life, I've always been a consultant. So I did many different projects around the world, never stayed, part of a project for more than a year or maybe a year and a half. And then this came about and it kind of drew me in. And we are at the end of a phase, but I'm still here for now. So South Africa, just to kind of a nudge to Michael, that the Partners for Possibility Initiative was inspired by the South Africa Live with Possibility Initiative. So there's no doubt that there's a very strong link. It's a startup. And for anybody who's ever been involved with a startup will know that there are particular kinds of leadership lessons that you learn from that. It's an innovative product and process, which is what I'm going to focus my attention on tonight, is around innovation. So nowhere else in the world nobody's done anything like what we've done, and certainly not at scale. It's a social enterprise registered as a not-for-profit in South Africa. In that one sentence, there are many years of learning from that, and I'm not entirely sure whether I would do it exactly the same way again, but that's where we are. It has a white woman as a leader and a founder, and I put this in, Michael, after the great news about the what's happening in the US, because whether I like to acknowledge it or not, being a woman has definitely has made it more challenging for me to be on this journey than I would have been if I was a man. And actually in South Africa, being a white woman has also made it more challenging in many ways. The program was launched in 2008, and for those of you who remember, 2008 was another discombobulating year with financial crises all around. And you have to ask whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. I often say to people, I think there's a fine line between courage and stupidity. This is on the line, launching anything. It's like launching a business in 2020. It's a tough one, but I wouldn't say don't do it. I'll just say it's tough. We work with government, which in itself is not to be recommended necessarily, but it's a choice we made. We wanted to have an impact in public education rather than private education. We have a virtual team, so we have 97 colleagues all across the country: Polokwane, Pofadder, Durban, Johannesburg, the whole thing, all 9 provinces. And for anybody who has ever led a team, leading a virtual team has many challenges in itself. We have about 2,600 clients or investors and about 370 funders / investors. So it's quite a multifaceted organization. We've mobilized investment of about 200 million Rand over the last 10 years, both in money and in kind. COVID came and it required us to completely re-engineer our model and our process, and we have achieved the seemingly impossible. And then lastly, I've just handed over responsibility for leading the organization. And in that, there are many lessons. We should do a session on founders leading organizations, because it is not for the faint-hearted. Our story in numbers, or the only reason I'm showing this picture is there's lots of numbers, but the one that I'm most proud about is we have recently been acknowledged as a member of the Million Lives Club, a Vanguard member, and that means that they have verified that we have reached more than 1 million lives, which is not quite what I had planned when we started this, but it's very gratifying to know that that's what's happened. We've won many awards. This is just partly an attempt to kind of show relevance and credibility. And as a result of that, I've started to capture my learning. I'm a very firm believer in learning from doing. My methodology for my doctorate was autoethnography, which is about taking your own experience seriously. So really not expecting to learn from authors and other clever people, but to kind of acknowledge that as a practitioner and as a leader, I am learning every single day, and I have a responsibility. With that kind of opportunity comes a responsibility to share what I'm learning. So I think there are a few key ingredients, and this is why I'm now dying to read the book about innovation, because I'm not sure whether any of this would show up in the research, but because this is just purely my own experience. This has got nothing to do with any research or anything else. It's just taking my own experience seriously. So I think in order to lead innovation beyond that, that first honeymoon period and that kind of first experience of excitement requires a burning desire to make a contribution. I know that if I didn't have that burning desire, there is no way I would have stayed the course. It requires being angry, upset, and concerned. I do think you need to find a cause or something that's going to keep you awake at night. You have to have an absolute commitment to a better future. And for us, for those of you who are in South Africa, our education crisis is really putting our future at stake. And so that's partly why I could kind of get up and kept going. You have to be a bit stubborn. I don't think stubbornness is always bad, but it can be. I've been very stubborn on this journey. And people told me that I was stubborn and I didn't want to listen. So I had to kind of look back and realize how stubborn I've been. I'm going to talk a little bit about onlyness, which I think is an amazing concept idea, which we'll talk about later. You have to have a lot of courage, a willingness to confront your own woundedness. So this is something that comes from that idea of a wounded healer, and Professor Janssen, who's been a mentor, kind of informal mentor, has often said that the reason why people do great things is because of their own woundedness, and that's definitely my reality. I think if I had an easier life, I'm not sure whether I would have taken on this project. You need tenacity and resilience. For me, giving up was just never an option. And you have to be willing to be vulnerable and to not know. And I think it helps when you are entirely outside your comfort zone. So I chose to take on a project that was partly my world around organizational leadership development, but it was outside of my comfort zone in that I knew nothing about education and public education and education, after democracy. I knew nothing about that. And so not knowing, I think, was a really good thing. You have to be willing to figure it out one step at a time. If you think you're going to have it all sorted and you're going to know exactly how the future is going to pan out, and it's going to be a clear line between intention and outcome. I don't think you should embark on this innovation journey, because I think it's the only way that you can do it is figure it out one step at a time. You have to have a very strong sense of possibility and optimism, and a commitment to walk together. One of my defining moments was the 5th of May 2009, when the Dinner King scenarios were published, and I made a commitment that I was going to spend the next decade of my life to figure out a way to make the walk together scenario a reality. So typically this shows up in a kind of a session on leadership, and then I've kind of distilled 17 leadership lessons. That's not what we're going to do today. What I'm going to do today, and thank you, Michael, for the opportunity, because it's forced me to think about this a bit, is I'm going to share a few thoughts on innovation specifically. And with the remaining 9 minutes, I'm going to share a few thoughts. So firstly, I think one of the most dangerous things to think is that you can innovate by thinking and planning and drawing beautiful pictures and creating charts. And I think you have to do stuff and try stuff. So when I see this picture, I just think that ideation phase, when we think about but don't do, personally, I don't know how that works out. So that would be my first, that's my first reflection and my first thought about innovation. The second one, I'm really keen to hear people's feedback, but let me rush through my 11 ideas, and then we'll come back to it and hear thoughts. So the second thing is that you build a business one uncertain step at a time. And anybody who looks back on their business and say, I knew exactly where we were going to go, and I knew exactly what I was doing. And that first year I was very clear, and we had them out. I mean, I think they're lying, honestly. I don't think there's any way that you know exactly what to do. So there's a book that's been extremely helpful for me. It's written by one of my very good friends, a mentor, a coach, a guide, Peter Block. He wrote the book, The Answer to How is Yes. And sometimes you just have to be willing to say yes. And then that yes will take you to places which, again, you won't know, but at least it's that kind of commitment to figure it out. The third thought I have is that being stubborn isn't always a bad thing. I was very stubborn about this brand, Partners for Possibility. And I cannot tell you how many marketing people, advertising people, PR people, anybody in marketing told me it's too long, too many words, too many letters, too many everything, don't. And I had to fight tooth and nail to keep this. All the board members who have marketing experience all felt it's their God-given responsibility to stop this this brand from going forward. Now, 10 years later, 100 lives later, people say to me, this is the most amazing brand. This is the best brand you could ever have decided. So that's been one of my reflections. This morning, I got a tweet from Alan Reyes, who, as you know, is a very well-known supporter of entrepreneurial businesses and small and medium-sized businesses. And this was his tweet. And when I read the tweet, it just kind of resonated so strongly with me. He says, to be an entrepreneur, you need to be brave. Every couple of days, you'll end up running into a fire to save your baby. There's no time to let any fear of the unknown take hold in your mind. You simply run in and do what needs to be done. And I'm sure that anybody who's ever started a business or been on this entrepreneurial innovation journey would say that kind of just resonates. It just kind of hit me in the face when I saw it. The fifth thing is I don't think anybody should start a business and specifically a business full of innovative ideas if you struggle with pain. So this is another, I remember reading this at a time that I was really struggling and had, it felt like enemy, many people attacking what we were doing. And Sean Parker wrote a very, very heartfelt piece about running a startup business. He says, running a startup is like eating glass. You just need to start to like the taste of your own blood. So I've talked quite a bit now about the difficult. I'm going to get to the more sense of possibility ones. So this is the other one. It's just there has to be a willingness to kind of tolerate pain. And you have to be prepared to be misunderstood. I remember sitting in a session in Oxford at the Skoll World Forum for Social Entrepreneurs about 7, 8 years ago, and there was one of the Skoll awardees stood up and he said, it's been 10 years that we've been doing this thing that's, very innovative idea against all the odds. He said, and for 10 years we've been misunderstood. And I've been looking for a quote of him saying that, and then I found others. I found H.L. Mencken, who was a journalist, who said, any man who afflicts the human race with ideas must be prepared to see themselves misunderstood or see them misunderstood. And then I found that Jeff Bezos said something similar. He said, if you have to be willing to be misunderstood if you're going to innovate. So because I think every innovation requires someone who's going to be willing to push against some of the accepted wisdom. And that's, so that all talks to the kind of person who needs to, when you're doing this. Quick kind of ad for Nalafa's book. So she has this amazing book, talks about the power of onlyness, make your wild ideas mighty enough to dent the world. I saw her at the Thinkers 50 conference a while ago, where they were kind enough to give us an opportunity to tell the PFP story. And what she was talking about is this idea that there are things that only I can do. And there are things that only Michael can do. And there are things that only Janet can do. And it's to do with our unique story. So what are the things that I've experienced in my life that when they all come together, and I have a whole history of stuff that I've done. And when you all put it in the pot, all those ingredients, and you mix up, you say there's no one else in the world who can do what I can do. And it kind of is Naval, who's a Indian kind of innovator, leader, entrepreneur. He says, sing the song that only you can sing. Write the book that only you can write. And build the product that only you can build. Live the life that only you can live. And so this idea of onlyness, if we have some time later, I hope we can dive into this a bit more. I've got 3 more things to say, so I'm just keeping an eye on time. I think I am going to take a risk and quickly show you a video. But this idea of be a magnet for the gifts and contributions of the people around you. One of the things that's been helpful for me is that I took on a massive big challenge, no idea how to do it. The answer to how was yes, I was going to just forging forward. But I realized that if I could tap into the people around me, then we could potentially do this. And one of the people I tapped into is a guy called Edward Kieswetter. So Edward, he's now at SARS, but he was the CEO of Alexander Forbes when I first met him. And he was one of those people that I wanted him to join as a partner to a principal, because that's our model. And I went to see him, and Edward says, Louise, I can't do this. I can't give 150 hours. I cannot be a partner to a principal. But what I could do, I could do something else. We need to figure out what it is that I could do. And many conversations, and we found out that the thing that Edward could do is Edward's onlyness. He's an amazing keynote speaker. He has a wonderful story around leadership, just so inspirational. And he had a venue and a beautiful building. So he had a beautiful building, so a venue and an amazing cafeteria. So every year, Edward would host us at Alexander Forbes. So we would get these principals and business leaders from all over the Gauteng, They'll come to Alexander Forbes. They'll be giving the red carpet treatment. Edward will do a talk on leadership. We'll get a few other people involved. And when you talk to many of those principals, they will remember this as these amazing moments on their journey. Now, Edward, when he talks about this, I'm just going to quickly do this because I wasn't sure whether I'm going to get a chance, but I think we are going to use it. Edward recently showed up without, nobody knew that he was going to show up. He just showed up because this is the beautiful thing about Zoom. He showed up at a book launch that we did. And at the end of the book launch, there was an opportunity to kind of get a few people to speak. Sorry, I just want to stop this. And Edward kind of indicated that he wanted to say something. So he said this. I'm going to show the video of him talking. I think it's 3.5 minutes. But for me, this is part of the kind of innovation story is Edward showing up at that book launch and then saying what he said. So oh, sorry, I need to just quickly make sure that I share with computer sound. And I'm hoping you're going to be able to hear it. Michael, can you?
You know, we talk about a very important challenge in our country, which is serious. So I'm going to be sound lighthearted about it for a moment. And it's gender-based violence. I must tell you, Louise is guilty of gender-based violence on me. She has bullied me into working with Spartans for Possibility ever since I first met her. So I am sufficiently bullied by Louise. Why did I allow myself to be continually bullied? Is because I have, first of all, I'm a sucker for success stories. And PFP is a huge success story. It's a huge South African success story. And we need many more success stories in South Africa. Personally, I understand the value of a good principle. I was privileged to have a Matt Ardendorf in my life as a young child at W.D. Hendricks in what many of you may not know, it was called the Kreef Hut. It's the back end of a township in Cape Town called Factoryton. Matt Ardendorf was the principal there, and I had the privilege of him. And then I had the privilege of Victor Ritchie at Harold Cressy. So I know how transformative an impact a principal can have in the life of a child, because I am such a product. Louise will know that at important moments in my life, I have invited and included Victor Ritchie because of the acknowledgement of that impact. You know, many ideas, many great ideas never see the light of day. And a multitude of those who even see the light of day succumb to infant mortality as a result of significant challenges and startup risks that startups face. For a good idea to outlast such risks of early demise, it needs to meet a few must-win battles. The first is it must seek to solve a real problem. And Partners for Possibility solved a real and problem that was crying for help, a problem that was created more than 300 years ago, and we still have not successfully solved it. The second must-win is it must have the potential to have a transformative impact on society, and Partners for Possibility is a transformative intervention. And thirdly, it must have a focused, passionate, and resilient leader with fanatical discipline, to borrow the words of Jim Collins. And Louise was such a leader. She was a leader for the moment. And I think that's why we are able to celebrate the success, because it met those three very important criteria. So congratulations to you, Louise, and well done. And keep up the good fight. You have many supporters. Thank you.
So thank you for indulging me there for a few minutes of Edward. Two more thoughts, and then I'd love to hear other people's thoughts. So I think we are being called to be like the little engine that could. And I don't know whether young people still read this book, or whether the book is read to them. But the story is about the little blue engine that just would not give up. And I think that's what we're being asked to do, is to just not give up. And Angela Duckworth's book, Grit, The Power of Passion and Perseverance, speak to that. And that's where I'm dying to hear whether any of these ideas come through in Salima's research. Courage, and we talked about that a bit. I think to innovate, you need courage. And there are two quotes that really speak up to me, and we've all seen this, so this is just a reminder. So the greatest act of courage is to simply keep going when everything in you want to turn and run. And I'm sure this resonates with many. And courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes courage is the quiet voice at the end of the day saying, I will try again tomorrow. And then the last thought is that building an impactful business, especially a business that is innovative and doing stuff that never even been done before, is one of the most rewarding things that you can do. So for me, this kind of collage of pictures really speaks to what we've done over the last 11 years or 10 years, is we've been developing leaders who have been kind of mobilizing community and addressing some tough issues in their communities. And I am now very irritated with hearing my own voice, and I will stop just there. Thanks, Michael, for the opportunity.
Cool. Thank you, Louise. So, like Janet last week, you gave us a pile of things to think about. Does anybody have any questions or anything you need to point out or ask before we go into breakout rooms so you guys can talk to each other?
Can I just say, I have a suggested question for the breakout room, but let's first hear whether anybody has a question.
Looks like no question. So go ahead, Louise, and throw a question. We're going to throw you straight in the breakout rooms because we're running a little bit behind now.
So my question for the breakout room is just what struck you about what you've heard? And the reason I'm asking that question is because it's a question that we can't pontificate or defend against. It's a question that goes straight to our hearts, that's requiring us to speak up from our hearts in response to this. So, and I just think those kind of questions lead us to have really interesting conversations.
Cool. So we're going to throw you in the rooms. The purpose of the rooms obviously is not just to talk about what you've heard, but to actually get to know the people that you're talking to. So try to share time and be polite with each other and love each other. And as I know you all will. So 10 minutes and then we'll see you back.
Hi.
Hi there.
Hi. Salima, I just got your LinkedIn request.
Oh, nice. Nice to meet you all. Yes. So what do you guys think?
About what Louise said. I think
the...
if I can start, only man, yes, so I'm going to take the privilege to start. If I take everything that she said, you know, starting your own business and doing it, firstly with government, I'm tipping my hat because I was part of the PFP journey. I think that the passion to really make a difference is the driving force that I see that stood out for me. And I think if you don't have that passion and you don't want to make that dent, I like that, making a dent in the world. If you don't have that passion and dent, then I think you're going to turn around and run eventually. If you don't see it through. And I think the only fire for me is the one that burns is passion. Otherwise, you're going to have a bliss very quickly with the first barrier you're going to meet. So that's my 10 cents. Zanile, you're still on mute. There you go.
Oh, there I am. Okay. Yeah, no, that's very, very relevant. I think a lot of the things that she mentioned, like resilience and empathy, like collaboration, grit, like all those concepts, innovation starts, like leadership, it starts with you, and all of that is very, very much about what my book is covering. And like, it starts like, I think leaders need to model, leadership and take that sort of initiative. It's not so much about, the culture has to start, from the leader and like how they model that. And it can be hard sometimes because it's like, especially now we're dealing with like different generations, like here in America, especially like the younger generations, like the Gen Zs and the millennials need a different type of leadership. And it's pretty flat. They function better in a horizontal thing where they can lead and empowering them to lead. And I think it's moving out of the micromanagement mindset, yet not being a macromanager, but really figuring out how to empower people and give them what they need. Also, as our world moves more into this like entrepreneurial, a lot of people are trying to do their own thing and be people like us that we're trying, we have our own companies or our own projects and stuff. We're moving into a project-based world. Like, what does that entail from like leadership? Like, how do you empower your your employee to be a better human or a better person? Well, it doesn't mean just doing the job right. And it's like more mission values driven sort of thing. So.
Very true.
Great points. I can't wait to read your book as well. I'm looking forward to it. I think one of the main things that jumped out for me was this concept of onlyness. So there were a lot of nuggets, but one of them was definitely the concept of onlyness, and how, unfortunately, in today's society, especially in the corporate world, we find that we use a lot of models that need us to sort of replicate, or models that need us to compete, and those are all great for productivity, but we sort of forget this element of that uniqueness, especially when it comes to an individual basis. And what you were saying, Salima, about organizations that holistically develop individuals. And I think that that's sort of where we're starting to come back to, as globalization and all sorts of concepts that need us to almost be uniform and lose ourselves are starting to fall away. The individual is starting to come back to, okay, what do I have to offer? Which is, as you were saying, more of the millennial Gen Z kind of thinking of, I have something to contribute, and I think I have what it takes to make some kind of a difference. And hence your millennials and Gen Zs not wanting to work for organizations that don't develop them and don't stand for something bigger than themselves. So I think that that's something that I needed to hear tonight. I must say, that onlyness, and do only what you can do. Write the book only you can write. And it speaks for me to tapping into those things that truly make you unique. Because unfortunately, it's nothing is guaranteed. And if you really want to leave that stamp, it needs to be a stamp that only you can leave. Touching on experiences that only you've had, organizations that only you've spoken to, feelings you've only felt. So yeah, it was quite a powerful message for me. I'm definitely inspired by that.
I agree with you, Zanile. I think that you as a person has got all this experience. You've built whatever knowledge base you have through the experiences that you've gone through, and being able then to share that in a collaborative environment. I think that can really mean something to you as a person. And I think everybody's got wisdom to share. And hopefully we can all write our own books one day. And hopefully crowdsourcing will help us as well. I am going to crowdsource your book.
Yeah, we put an ebook option on there for international shipping. Is insane, because I'm actually going to ship them. I'm going to ship them directly to people from here and personally sign them. So for their crowdfunding adopters, So there's ebooks, there's a digital package, there's a workbook we're trying to do for like book clubs and to apply, like mentors or people that want to apply to the tools. But yeah, the onlyness concept is part of what I have in I guess this is like my book I've gone through so many iterations, but I talk about
Uh-huh.
being original, like being
Oh,
intriguing.
absolutely.
Like
Yeah.
it's called like intriguing originality. But it's
Yeah.
like, how do you be catchy, but like authentic, but original? Because I think that's what's there's so much noise in the world. Like even just this crowdfunding
Exactly.
thing, it's hard because it's hard to get people's attention. It's hard to get people to respond. It's hard to get people to click on something. And you have to develop like the influence by being original. And it's through storytelling, it's through developing tools and things in a really unique way. I think it's like smart mobilizing communities. It's a lot of like self-organized communities, like this one is a little like niche community as well. And I think it's really trying to be original, but not trying so hard about it. It's like really, it comes like, for me, it happened after I tried and I struggled and I just gave up. And then out of nowhere, it just happened. I was traveling to California and all of a sudden I just had like a light bulb switch come on and I started coming up with ideas for frameworks and tools. But for a long time, I was like, how am I going to create like a business model canvas, or like, how's this book going to be unique if I don't have like a tool in it or something that's mine? And so that's where I struggled. And I think that's going to be what makes leaders and innovators, like a lot of our type of work, unique, is actually how do you apply a lot of the thought leadership in a way that people can share, where there's like constants and then some variable, but there's a constant, like the business model canvas that can be applied in a personal life, can be applied in so many different ways.
Yeah.
Oh, very true.
I like what you said about storytelling.
Yeah.
That's something that I could definitely resonate with, because in my past life, I was actually a primary school teacher. So a lot of the things that I learned about innovation and creativity are things that I learned through watching children learn, watching children adapt, watching children transition. But now, having moved from a sort of public work setting into a private, corporate, more buttoned up kind of workplace, it's so different, because I find that a lot of the time I've started to neglect those stories about where everything started and how we need to sort of go back to those ideas and the ways that our brains used to function. Absolutely. So I'm really encouraged now to start to bring some of those entertaining, funny, but very thought-provoking stories that I used to, that actually encouraged this work in the first place.
I think it's so important to have your own story, Sanile. I think earlier this week I read Natalie Elliott, part of the creative group. She written her own story, and I was so amazed. I'm always amazed with people that just rise up through the ashes, and she really did. And I was confronted with my own story, and I thought to myself, I've never told that story, and I've built on the story for my life, but I've never told that story. And I think by myself, you know what, I must clean up that story because it inspired me to live my story. So I think if we can share those stories more, we are ordinary people. We must share those stories of resilience and growth. Otherwise, it's going to get lost.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. So I think that with that, I was going to say the storytelling is interesting because people will be drawn to you and your story in some way. Maybe they're a few steps behind you and they're trying to like understand how did you get forward or how did you get unstuck. For me personally, like I got struggled because I was like, oh, I want to be like Brene Brown or Simon Sinek and all that. And I was like, how do I write like a good thought leadership book? And then I realized my editor is like, nope, don't do lectures. Don't do like the authentic, like, especially with the generations that I kind of target, like the millennials and stuff. It needs to be short, crisp, like chapters that are like my editor's like, start with a story. Cause like, and I was like, but what about like the research and all this stuff? And he was like, nope, like start the story is what people are going to remember and they're going to emotionally connect with that. And so that's where I've had to accept and be like, well, my book is not going to look like it's going to be a lot of stories and then weaving in some lessons and insights and interviews and frameworks and tools and things. But I really had to accept that story. Like, yeah, one of my chapters is impactful storytelling. Like the innovation starts with I. It's like I ended up iterating the book, but like the last chapter is impactful storytelling because at the end of the day, that's a really important leadership skill for the future of work. I think the vulnerability that she talked about too in that story. And also what I noticed is the backstory that happened with COVID was people were very interested in the backstory these days. Like they're like, how did you get where you are? Like, what did you do on the behind the scenes? And that's something that's been very interesting. That came out in our business model too, like supporting entrepreneurs with what we did in our journey versus like talking about leadership and design thinking and all that stuff that mostly got canceled with COVID. So.
Oh. Okay, well, all the best on your journey.
Yes,
And you
absolutely.
too, Dennis. I see we have to go back before we get kicked out violently.
Yeah. So can you tell me a little bit, I wanted to know a little bit more about both of you. What are you both up to?
Sanila, you can go.
Well, I'm speaking and facilitating. That's what I do for on all the time, all day, every day.
Okay.
And yeah, and also working on my next book now as well. So I might nudge you for help soon.
Ooh,
Right.
okay.
Right. I'm an executive day, industrial psychologist as well, coach, a nursery owner, garden designer. That's what I do.
Wow. So interesting. Well, it was great meeting you both. I think we have to leave now.
Yeah, oh, seems like some people are lost in cyberspace. All right.
Michael, Flores realized that he had an overlap. He thought it was only until 8, so he's left the call. Apologizes.
Oh, okay. He was here last week, so he knows what time it is.
But Linus has disappeared, Henri.
Yeah, no, 6 people have vanished on the way back.
You think it's load shedding?
Yeah, could be.
Possible.
Could be. All right. Well, would anybody like to share what you got out of that conversation before we go into one more? Nayo, is that you? You want to say something?
No, I was just brushing my knee.
Well, Zoom thinks you want to say something. Perhaps you do want to say something.
The thing is, my network disconnected, and then I missed part of the points that were made. But I got in the conversation when she was talking about courage, and then in our conversation in our breakout room, I reflected on the courage that it struck me immediately. I got back on the session to say, you know what, I haven't been having the courage, to like take up this feeling that, I need to do this. I want to speak and be in global space and, take up all these skills that I think I've been like holding on to, enterprise from. So I think from this conversation, it really helped when others were also talking about how they have their lesson. So maybe they can fill in for where I missed.
Okay. Does anybody that was in Nao's group want to fill in where she missed on something that everybody would like to hear? If not, then Louise, what's the second thing that we want to send people off about?
Oh, maybe, yes, I miss, as I said, the loneliness part. And I explained to Neo and Irene that it was something that I've been suppressing. And when you in that space, some people think that you're rebellious or what. So when you're working in a working environment, you try to suppress it, and it kept on resurfacing until, as I said, I had to leave my job because of that. I mean, my immediate manager couldn't, I think I came across to be a very strong person. So, yes, I was telling Irene and Neo that after leaving that job, and what helped me to try and find myself. What is it? What is this that people are seeing that I don't see? And it was not only a workspace, even friends and even family, you know. And at some point you find that you end up like you are rebellious. Where else there's this thing, you know. So with this lockdown, being at home, it has helped me to, you know, to realize and to find, you know, what is it all about. And I would say at one time I was talking to my son, and he's 19, he's doing second year law. He said, "Ma, for me, growing up, I saw you when you talk, you come across as being, you are a threat to people, you know." And I said, "But you know what? And I'm a very soft-hearted, kind person." He said, "Ma, no, there is this strong thing about you." His words were, "You need to find out and you need to work on it and find out what is it." So yes, as I said, the onlyness is that only now I picked it up. What is it about?
All right, thank you. Let's dive into the room so you guys get a chance to talk to each other again. Louise, what's your second question?
The second question is exactly in response to what New was saying, is when we look into that mirror and we get confronted with our onlyness, where does that take us? So I would encourage you to go and have a conversation with a few other people and to acknowledge, what is it that makes you unique? You may not need to know what the where that might lead to, but once you know what makes you unique and special and enables you to do something that no one else in the world can do because of your life experience. We're talking to Anita earlier. Anita has 3 children. She has a child with Down syndrome. She has lived in South Africa and the UK. She has been a florist. She's just got this amazing story, which means that she's positioned to do something very different from Michael and Dennis and Janet and the rest of us. So once we get confronted with our onlyness, all sorts of amazing opportunities open up. And I'm saying that to myself as well, given that I'm also now in that space of figuring out what is my next, where does the future take me?
So the question was?
So for you to, in the presence of 2 or 3 other people, to acknowledge your own onlyness and to just look in the mirror and just acknowledge it for now. And hopefully then take it with you for the next few days and keep wondering, where does that take me?
Okay, cool. Fantastic. I'm going to open the rooms.
Hi, Neil. Hi, Johanna.
Hi, Denise.
Hi, Denise. Hi, Johanna. I'm always with Johanna.
Yeah, you know. You're stalking me.
No, I think you came last. Oh, yes.
Well,
You know, that's interesting.
Let's talk about the concept of your onlyness. Who wants to start?
Yeah.
No, I
Maybe
think you
should
must
start.
shoot because I have already spoken. Eh?
Yeah, and?
No, Denise hasn't spoken. I have to hear Denise.
Yeah, let me think about the onlyness, you know, because I'm a disruptor at work.
I love that.
I'm a developer at heart. So onlyness, you know, I get a lot of misunderstoodness, if I can put it like that. With people say, "Oh, it's Dennis stuff," you know, but eventually what they experience is the change for the better. And I think that is, you know, and I think that is something that I've been working on so long, because my mantra in and my why is, you know, I'm a generator. I'm a generator of people's potential, organizations' potential, and teams' potential. And I always say that if I can't make an impact, then I must move on. I must find something else. And I think that that's my onlyness is, you know, I'm an absorber, and then I integrate, and then I go and do. And then I also want to teach people to do. And I think that's my onlyness and value add, is that what I've learned I want to share, so that people can either take it further, step further, or don't make that mistake, or just be more effective in life. I think that's my onlyness value.
Okay, now I'm getting this concept of the onlyness. You know, I'm reminded of something like I've always been that young person that's been intimidating bosses. I think Skosana is saying, I have that strong character, you know. You know, that character that in my profession they say is assertiveness, where you stand by the truth, the principles, and the values of the profession, no matter what happens. So for some people, they might want to bend the rules because I'm not in a leadership position. You know, you may be there and they're still sitting in the position, and there's no way you can occupy that space.
Yeah.
But then you come up with brilliant ideas. They cannot take them just because you are a junior. You know what? I put my idea across, and I don't care what you say. I say, we do this. If we don't, you will go alone. You'll do your thing alone. Because I'm not going to do things that don't improve any other person's life. I think I'm just like you, where I see potential in other people. I told them in my first breakout room that I love developing people's talents. I think I've done much for other people than myself. This is why today now I have to like look at me and say, like, what have I done for me then? I think now I have to take it on and say, you know what, me, I'm going to do for me. Because now I think like it's time. I've been sitting on this, like it's time I need to tell my story. My unique story might sell more than other people's stories, where I have to tell you, you know, Miles Monroe said this, you know, Les Brown says this. What am I saying? What can I encourage you with? If I'm in Botswana, you can relate with my story better than Miles Monroe. You don't know him. Sometimes you don't even watch TV or you don't read.
True. You know what? I said it in the previous meeting as well, that in the breakout room, we talk about storytelling, and I absolutely agree with you. If you've got a powerful story, why not tell it? Why not share it?
My story is so powerful that people always, when I'm just having a social chat, and then I get to tell them a story, they say, like at 40, you experienced all that and you are still strong and glowing. I'm like, oh my God.
But
they don't even believe, like when I tell people,
strong and glowing, eh?
Yes.
Yeah.
When I tell people that I'm a mother of 4, they're like, you lie? You don't have kids. Is then where I tell them, you know what, I think I became strong on what I went through at a young age. And then for the past 12 years, I built myself, though I wasn't coming out and telling that story. But I was helping other people not to go through what I went through indirectly, not telling them I went through this. Then I will be just like advisory. Don't do this, you know, don't rush into taking decisions. I know I took the decisions that I shouldn't have taken. Maybe I needed somebody at that time, but there was none. But then it was for the good. I'm now here. I can tell that story, and it can change other people's lives.
Yeah,
Because now I've healed from the pain, and now is what I say. I'm living. I'm enjoying my life. So yeah.
Oh, that's great. And I think there's nothing better than first-hand experience, eh? Nothing.
Yo.
Oh.
That's what I was like. I haven't been like, people haven't heard my story, and it's just my closest friends that know. What if I just package this story, get an author who knows how to change things not to look direct for other people's protection, and then I'm like, boom, I sell the story. Because most of the things they would know, yeah, we know it happened to her, but some of the things we will protect them and put them in a way that's palatable to everyone's ear. So then you are like,
why don't you do it?
Then you are, I am going to do it. This is why I'm in this call. Like, I've been looking for this motivation to, so the encouragement to take it on. I've been postponing, and this time during this lockdown, I was like, I'm gonna sit every Thursday in this call. Make sure also in the writing accountability, I'll start writing some intro and then the structure, and then I'll beef it up.
Okay, so set yourself a goal.
Yeah.
Set yourself a goal, and do you want an accountability partner?
Please. Please. Thank you so much for offering. I don't know, you will send me the details how we can continue, because I really, really need that person that can guide me into writing that story. Because I don't want to come out strong on the story or get emotional. I just want to tell it in a way that is, that's going to be, for everyone.
Yeah. Well, I think the first step for you is to write your framework of your story.
Yeah. I'll definitely do that.
And start doing that, and you must give yourself a time and say, I'll start here and it must be finished at the end of whatever, so that you keep the momentum. Otherwise, you're not going to do it.
I know. I've been postponing every year.
Don't.
I'm telling you, like, I always tell people, I get called to speak. I'd only speak on resilience because I know how I've gone through resilience, and then I relate it to health. I don't want to touch my story. I just go take health and health experiences and take theory, put into practice, and that's it. I don't give them close examples.
But if you've got a powerful story to tell, you must do it, eh?
Yeah, I will. I definitely will. Yeah.
So
where's Kosana? She's not on the call now. Where is she?
She froze, and I think she also mentioned in the previous breakout room that she had internet problems, and it looks like she's got got some internet problems. Because I've been trying to look if I can find her, but I can't see to get her back on the room. But anyway, tell me, what are you doing? What new? What specific?
I'm a lecturer. I'm teaching. I'm teaching at the nursing college. I'm teaching leadership and management. Leadership and management in the nursing school.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
How long have you been?
I've been a nurse for 18 years, and then I did 12 of nursing, and then I went for my undergrad for 3 years, and then I came back to start teaching, and then I'm now on my master's. I'm doing Master of Nursing Science with Northwest University. I did my undergrad with Pretoria University.
Where are you living?
I'm in Botswana.
Oh, Botswana.
Global. Yeah.
Okay. And Northwest, through Mafeking campus or Koch?
Mafeking.
Okay.
It's just near me. It's about 60 kilometers from Lobate.
Oh, well, it's about 70 kilometers away from me. I live in Lichtenburg.
Yeah. Oh, Lichtenburg. I've been there before. I was buying this thing. What do you call the maize mills when I was still young and raising funds.
Okay.
I used to buy maize meal from those farms.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I was great meeting you. Tell me, and your kids, what did they do?
My firstborn just finished his degree. He's almost done. It's just because of this COVID that he has postponed. doing final year occupational health and safety, and the second is doing Form 4, that's grade 11, and then the other one is doing standard 6, and the last one is doing standard 1.
Goodness gracious, they spread they spread well out.
Yeah, I did.
Ah,
I
that's
did.
great. That's great. Well,
Yeah.
they've got a strong figure in their house that's situated in you. So
Yeah.
I think
I,
it always need a strong mentor and a mother
yeah.
figure. Oh, and your husband?
Mm. We divorced it 12 years back. That's why I was saying it's something that I went through 12 years back. So I got married at a young age. Yeah, and then didn't stay long because, you know, I knew this is not what I can keep up with.
And you are so much better off.
Yeah, I'm leaving. That's why I'm saying I'm happy, healthy, and glowing. I really can't be having those wrinkles and unhealthy heart. No,
that's great.
I can't allow myself to go through sorrow.
Yeah, no, you know what? If one can learn from that and take the best and moving forward, I think that is the best.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that's true.
Now you must share your story, Nia. You must share your story.
I definitely will.
No.
I definitely will. Are you in the writing accountability group?
Just say that again.
Are you in the writing accountability group?
No.
Oh, okay.
No,
you are just in this one.
What group are you mentioning?
The one in the accountability where when we write, we do Wednesdays. Is it Wednesday and Fridays? Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We write for an hour in the morning.
No.
Okay.
No, not yet.
Okay.
I will look it up. I don't know about it.
Okay.
What group is it? Where do they? Who's?
So that communicates the level of interest she has in being here.
She has probably been. No, there she is.
She couldn't miss it. So, okay. Look, I'm one of those people that like when I see 40 people last week and then 17 this week, and I get like upset, right? And Louise,
I'm feeling it's all because I didn't want to come to the session where I spoke, so I'm feeling so hard done too.
No, you know what happened? I pushed really hard the first week to get people to be aware and pay attention, and this week I was a little slack because I thought momentum would carry us, you know. But it's fine. What that brings up, though, is the question that in our group...
My battery is going to shut.
Now?
Let me connect.
Okay. In our group, Louise raised a bit of a challenge. We were talking about the reason that people don't seem to get the importance of creativity and innovation at the level they may get other pain points in their life. We were specifically talking about the emotion of regret, which you know, people obviously would love to get rid of. I actually, Louise, you're probably familiar with Landmark, right? So I'm a very deeply, I've gone through lots of Landmark and was on a session last night, and I shared about regret because it was appropriate to the topic. And I got someone from that session reaching out to me, asking me to help them with their regret. You know, I think it's something that people engage with, and there's a lot of things that we deal with, but creativity seems to be one that, although all evidence and all important publications and so on have said quite clearly, and since Charles Darwin, really, right, that it's you know, adaptability is the critical skill in the world. It is not something that people have really embraced at the level that they should. And Louise raised the question, could we do a session in September maybe where we actually ask that question? Why is that, and how do we get them to shift? And I said to Louise, well, actually the whole reason that we exist as Innotivity is exactly to try to get people to understand that. It's why we're having these sessions. So yeah, I'm with Louise on that, and we will do that. Now, we have yet again run long. So we're close to out of time, and we have very few people left. Is there anybody who would like to share or ask anything about yourself or anybody else in this group that you know like us to know about? You know, for example, you know, something that you've got coming up you'd like us to attend, or something you'd like to know about, or like us to know about, anything like that.
Can I go, Michael?
Yes.
Very quickly for the ladies. Tomorrow we are running a very cool women's event. It's going to be very different from a normal online conferencey kind of thing. I am posting in the chat the link to book. It's only 350 Rand, and if you use that coupon, you get $100 off, and it's only 250 Rand. And we got an amazing lineup of speakers. We're talking about being an astute woman.
And they will be speaking on camera, right?
They will. Michael says he's got FOMO and he wants the presentations.
Well, what I actually said was I want to dress up like a woman so I can speak.
Yeah. I said no.
You didn't actually.
True, I never came back to you. I said it in my head.
Yeah, it looks awesome. Huh? It looks really
And then
good.
I don't want to steal anybody else's time, but talking about onlyness, I coach using the Strengths Finder tool, which is awesome for unpacking onlyness.
Indeed.
I think Sanelli was kind of showing her hand earlier around wanting to talk about something.
Thanks, Louise. So just two things, I think, upcoming. When is this? On the 19th, or is it? Yeah, I think it's the 19th. SAICA is doing a Women in Leadership conference, and it's open to the public. So I'm speaking on a panel there, and the topic is, are you ready to pivot your business? So it's all about how women entrepreneurs can pivot at this time, whether it's pivoting their career paths or pivoting their businesses or leaving actual formal work to start something. So that's open to the public and it's free. The link is on my LinkedIn page. And then the other one is my unlearning virtual workshop, very first of its kind. Usually I work strictly with my clients, but now I've just opened up to do a little bit of a public thing, but I'll share more about it on the 20th when I speak. So it's for individuals and for teams as well. Anyone who wants to unlearn this bugging habit that they've got, or an organization that wants to just wants a bit of help with transitioning. All of that's up on my link.
Cool. And those of you who have not done so yet, please go to the group, which is in your mail, I think, and will be in every mail. And make sure you're in it so that you can actually talk to each other there. What we're trying to do with the group is keep it real simple. So, for example, Louise has a post. Sorry?
Where is the group?
So, as I said, the group is on every mail that goes out. There's a link to the group. It's on LinkedIn.
Oh, okay.
And so if you have registered properly into this event, then you will get those mails. If you sneaked in somehow from the side,
I'll check my mails.
Then you won't have it.
I got mails and links to this event.
Yeah, I mean, some people last week, there was a number of people who definitely weren't registered, and it's cool, but it's like they
I was there last week.
I know you were there. I remember everybody. But yeah, so that's the idea, guys, is, you know.
Zanel will help me.
I will. I don't mind.
She's good like that. So tell us a bit about what you're going to talk about next week, huh?
Sure, no problem. So I want to just sort of keep it short. I'm going to draw a bit on my experience as a primary school teacher, and I'm going to include that sort of as a starting point. And I think I want to just say that I want everyone to be ready to be discomforted, to be uncomfortable, to get out of their comfort zone, and being made to feel some kind of discomfort. So that's where we're going to start. And then we're going to look at one of the main reasons that you and I struggle to actually change and what we can do about that. But the main emphasis is going to be on how our brains are actually not our best friends when it comes to unlearning and changing. So that's in a nutshell, that's what it's going to be. And I'm going to bring in some great stories from when I used to work as a teacher that might be a bit funny, but also very encouraging, and will help you to sort of understand in perspective why we struggle and what we can do about it going forward.
Cool. I always like to say that our minds are a dangerous neighborhood, so I'm ready for your talk. They really are. My you know, I know for myself, my brain is the most dangerous place on earth. So.
Whoa.
I was going to say, should we agree or disagree, Michael?
Are you kidding?
Of course.
Janet's been through my training. Cool. Well, I think we're kind of like out of time, right? Yeah, like we're totally out of time. Like we're over by a minute. So the universe has warped and we've fallen into a black hole. Is there anything else anybody wanted to say or ask?
I just want to say thank you, Michael, for kind of creating these communities of people, bringing us together, people who wouldn't normally hang out together. And yeah, it's been great to be here this evening. I feel personally responsible for the fact that we didn't have more people. I was also away last weekend and out of contact, so I didn't spend lots of time marketing this event, so I feel a bit guilty about that. But thank you. I had a great evening. And
you can always market Zanella's talk.
Yeah, no, clearly we're going to have to market some of this.
I was going to say, maybe it's my fault. Maybe I put them all off last week. But Michael, don't be discouraged by numbers. They're just numbers. They're just that. People will come back.
Oh, I have no doubt. I mean, people were very enthusiastic. It's just,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll push for the next one.
I take it
and
personally.
the one after that.
Yeah.
And after that, and after that, and after that, it goes forever. It just goes. That's the beauty.
Yeah.
Of it. But I'm really pleased, Louise, that you came and shared with us, and that the people that were here got a lot, I think, from you. So that's the main point.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week, and in the meantime, stay safe.
Oh my God.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you,
everyone.
Louise. Thank you, Michael.